Getting fired was bad enough. Getting fired for doing her job correctly was worse. But having her former boss show up at her apartment at midnight, 8 days later, looking like he wanted to offer her something she couldn't refuse. That was when Saria Langston knew her life in Seoul had just taken a turn into territory she didn't understand. Ko Sung-hyun wasn't just any boss. He was the kind of man people whispered about. The kind who owned more than what appeared on paper. And he was standing outside her door, with an expression that said he wasn't leaving until she let him in. Saria's fingers stopped moving across the keyboard. The number on her screen didn't make sense. She scrolled back through the spreadsheet, checked the formulas twice, then pulled up the corresponding bank statements from 3 different accounts. Still wrong. It was nearly 11 at night. The office stretched empty and quiet around her, just the hum of computers and the distant sound of a cleaning crew somewhere on another floor. Seoul glowed outside the windows, all neon and movement, a city that never quite went to sleep. She'd been working at Meridian Solutions for 8 months, long enough to know which executives padded their expense reports, which departments ran over budget, and which accounts were legitimate even when they looked questionable. This was something else. Someone had moved money, a lot of it, and they'd been very, very careful about it. Saria grabbed her phone and took screenshots of the discrepancies, then sent them to her supervisor with a brief message. Found something in the Q3 reconciliation. Can we discuss tomorrow? She saved her work, shut down her computer, and went home to her tiny apartment in Mapo, where the walls were thin and the heating was unreliable, but the rent was something she could actually afford. The reply came at 6 in the morning. Come in early. We need to talk. By 9:30, she was unemployed. Her supervisor, a middle-aged man named Park, who'd barely spoken to her outside of quarterly reviews, handed her an envelope and wouldn't meet her eyes. Security escorted her to her desk, watched while she packed her things into a cardboard box, then walked her out through the lobby like she'd committed a crime. No explanation, no warnings, just severance in cash and a door closing behind her. Saria stood on the sidewalk holding her box of belongings, trying to process what had just happened. She'd done her job. She'd found a problem. And somehow that had gotten her fired. The next 3 days blurred together. She updated her resume, reached out to recruiters, and applied to every financial analyst position in Seoul that matched her experience. Her phone stayed silent. Emails went unanswered. One recruiter she'd worked with before responded with a curt message that made her stomach drop. I'm sorry, but we're not able to place you at this time. By day 5, she understood. Someone had blacklisted her. By day 7, the real panic set in. Her work visa was tied to her employment. She had 30 days to find a new sponsor or leave the country. Seoul wasn't just where she worked. It was home now. She'd left Accra 3 years ago on a scholarship, fought for every opportunity, learned Korean through sheer stubborn determination, and built a life here that was finally stable. And now someone was taking it away. She didn't know who. She didn't know why. But late at night, alone in her apartment, she kept coming back to those numbers on her screen. The money that had been moved so carefully. The report she'd sent. Someone powerful wanted her gone. On day 8, at 4 minutes past midnight, her doorbell rang. Saria was still awake, hunched over her laptop at the kitchen table, searching job boards in both English and Korean. She'd changed into old pajama pants and an oversized university sweatshirt hours ago, her hair tied up in a messy bun that had mostly given up. The doorbell rang again. Nobody visited her at midnight. Nobody visited her at all, really. She'd been too busy building her career to build much of a social life. She walked to the door and checked the peephole. A man stood in the hallway, tall, perfectly dressed in a dark coat that looked expensive even through the distorted fisheye lens. His face was calm, patient, like waiting in her hallway at midnight was completely normal. She recognized him immediately. Ko Sung-hyun, her boss, former boss, the head of Meridian Solutions and about 6 other companies, all of them connected in ways that the official paperwork never quite explained. She'd seen him exactly 4 times in 8 months, twice in the elevator, once at a company dinner where he'd given a speech, and once walking past her desk without looking at her. He was the kind of man people noticed, not because he was loud or flashy, but because of how still he was, how controlled, Like he knew exactly what power looked like and didn't need to prove it. And he was standing outside her apartment at midnight. Surya opened the door but left the chain on. "You fired me. I know." His voice was quiet, level. "I need you back." She almost laughed. "Then you're going to have to ask." 3 seconds passed. Maybe 4. He didn't blink, didn't shift. Just looked at her like he was solving an equation. "May I come in?" "No." Something flickered across his expression. Not irritation. Something closer to approval. "Then I'll be brief. You found a discrepancy in the third quarter accounts. Money being moved through shell companies into offshore accounts. You reported it and got fired for it. You got fired because I needed to see what you'd do next." Sarfria stared at him. "That's insane. That's careful." He slipped his hands into his coat pockets. "The leak you found isn't a mistake. Someone inside my organization has been stealing from me for 6 months. 18 billion won so far. Everyone I've put on it has come back with nothing. You found it in 3 hours. So hire me back. I'm trying to. By showing up at midnight like this is a spy movie. By offering you a job that comes with a visa sponsorship, triple your previous salary, and answers to why you were blacklisted." He tilted his head slightly. "You have 22 days left." I checked. Her hands tightened on the doorframe. "What kind of job?" "Find the leak. 30 days. You'll have access to everything you need. Full immunity for whatever you discover. When it's done, you decide if you want to stay or walk away. And if I say no, then you say no." He said it simply, without threat. Somehow that made it worse. They both knew what no meant. It meant packing. It meant leaving. It meant losing soul and everything she'd built here. "I need to think about it." "Of course." He pulled a card from his pocket and held it up. She opened the door just enough to take it. "Call me when you decide. Any time." He turned and walked down the hallway toward the elevator. Didn't look back. Didn't rush. Surya closed the door and locked it, her heart beating too fast. The card was heavy, expensive paper. Just his name and a phone number. No company, no title. She didn't sleep that night. Instead, she sat at her laptop and searched everything she could find about Ko Seung-hyun. There wasn't much. He owned Meridian Solutions and several other investment firms. He had business ties across Asia and Europe. He kept a low profile, rarely gave interviews, and had exactly one photo on the entire English-language internet, a grainy shot from a charity dinner 5 years ago. The Korean search results were more interesting. Forums where people speculated about his connections. Rumors about his family. Old money mixed with old power. Whispers about what happened to business rivals who pushed too hard. Nothing concrete, nothing provable. Just the shape of something larger, like looking at a shadow and trying to guess what cast it. At 6 in the morning, she called the number on the card. He picked up on the first ring. "Yes." 30 days, Surya said. "I work independently. Nobody interferes with my process. No lies about what I'm walking into. And I want a contract. Done. I'll send a car at 9. I can take the subway. The car will be more comfortable." He paused. "And safer." He hung up before she could argue. If you're already hooked and want to see where this midnight deal takes Surya, tap that like button so I know you're riding along for this whole wild story. Trust me, it gets so much more intense. The car arrived at exactly 9. Black, clean, with a driver who opened the door for her without speaking. Surya wore the same professional clothes she'd worn to interviews all week. Her hair pulled back, minimal makeup, armor. They drove to a building in Gangnam. All glass and steel and the kind of security that involved multiple checkpoints. The Meridian Solutions office had been nice. This was something else entirely. The elevator required a key card. They went up 34 floors. The doors opened into a reception area where a woman sat behind a minimalist desk. She smiled politely at Surya and gestured toward a hallway. "Mr. Ko is expecting you." His office sat at the corner, with windows looking out over Seoul in 2 directions. The furniture was clean and expensive without being showy. Everything perfectly placed. A desk, a meeting table, a small seating area. No personal photos, no clutter. Ko Seung-hyun stood near the windows, reading something on his phone. He looked up when she entered. "Coffee or tea?" "Coffee. Black." He picked up a phone on his desk, said something in Korean too quick for her to catch, then gestured to the meeting table. "Sit. We have a lot to cover." Surya sat. A minute later, someone brought coffee in real cups, not disposable ones, and left without a word. Seung Hyan opened a slim folder and slid it across the table. Your contract. Read it carefully. If anything concerns you, we'll change it. She read every line. The salary made her blink. The visa sponsorship was immediate. There was a clause about confidentiality, and another about legal protection for anything she discovered during the investigation. Nothing about requiring her to stay after 30 days. This is fair. I'm not interested in trapping you. I'm interested in solving a problem. Why me? You could hire a whole forensic accounting firm. I did. They found nothing. He sipped his coffee, watching her. You found it without trying. That means you think differently than the people in my organization. That's what I need. Surya signed the contract. He countersigned it immediately and handed her a copy. Now the reality, he said. 18 billion won is missing. Probably more. Whoever is taking it has access to systems, passwords, and information they shouldn't have. That means it's someone close. Someone trusted. When you find them, there will be consequences. I need to know you can live with that. Can you? He smiled slightly. It didn't reach his eyes. I've lived with worse. Then so can I. He stood. Come on. I'll introduce you to the people you'll be working with. The office had 2 sections. The front half looked like any investment firm. People at desks, meetings in glass-walled conference rooms, everything legal and documented. The back half, past another locked door, was quieter. Fewer people, more privacy. This was where the real work happened. Song Hyeon led her into a conference room where 3 people waited. This is Soraya Langston. She'll be investigating the financial irregularities. She has my full authorization and access to anything she requests. He gestured to each person. Min Jae-sung, my director of operations. Yoon Hana, head of accounts. Daniel Cho, acquisitions. Min Jae-sung was probably in his 40s, with graying hair and the kind of face that gave nothing away. He nodded at Soraya without smiling. Yoon Hana looked younger, sharply dressed, with eyes that assessed Soraya like a balance sheet that didn't quite add up. Daniel Cho was the only one who smiled. Welcome back. We heard you left. I did, Soraya said. Now I'm here. Seung Hyan pulled out a chair for her at the head of the table, then took the seat beside her instead of at the head himself. The shift was small, but everyone noticed. Soraya will need account access, server permissions, and historical records going back 12 months. Full cooperation. He looked at each of them. Anything she asks for, she gets. Understood? They all nodded. Good. Let's start with what we know. For the next 2 hours, they walked through the missing money. The patterns were brilliant. Transfers disguised as operating expenses. Payments to shell companies that existed just long enough to process the money, then dissolved. Nothing large enough to trigger automatic flags. Whoever was doing this understood the systems perfectly. Soraya took notes, asked questions, started building a mental map. Jae-sung answered most of her questions precisely, like he'd been over this 100 times. Hana added details about specific accounts. Daniel filled in context about which businesses were involved. All 3 of them were smart, professional, and perfectly capable of being the leak. When the meeting ended, Sung Hyan walked her to a private office 2 doors down from his. This is yours. Computer is set up with all the access you need. If you hit any walls, let me know. The office was smaller than his, but still nicer than anywhere she'd worked before. Windows, real furniture, space to think. Thank you. He paused at the door. They're going to test you. All 3 of them. They need to know if you're legitimate or just here because of me. And what am I, legitimate? He said it without hesitation. But they don't know that yet. He left her alone. Soraya spent the rest of the day buried in files. Transaction records, bank statements, corporate structures that twisted through 4 different countries. Her old boss at Meridian had given her access to 1 subsidiary. Now she could see the whole web. It was dizzying. And somewhere in all of this, someone was stealing. At 7, someone knocked. She looked up to find Hana in the doorway. We're ordering dinner. Do you want something? It was the first remotely friendly gesture anyone had made. Soraya's stomach was empty. Sure, whatever you're getting is fine. Hana's expression shifted slightly, not quite a smile. You're not picky? I'm hungry. 20 minutes later, Hana came back with containers of jjajangmyeon and set one on Soraya's desk. She didn't leave, just leaned against the doorframe. So, you found the problem nobody else could find? I got lucky. Lucky. Hana repeated the word like she was testing it. Sung Hyan doesn't believe in luck. What does he believe in? Results. Hana tilted her head. You're different than I expected. How so? You don't act impressed. Surya opened her noodles. Should I be? Hana almost smiled. Most people are scared of him. Are you? No, but I've known him for 8 years. She pushed off the doorframe. Good luck, Surya. You're going to need it. She left. Surya ate her noodles and thought about that conversation. Hana was testing her, figuring out if she was a threat or an ally. Fair enough. Surya was doing the same thing. She worked until nearly midnight, until her eyes blurred and the numbers stopped making sense. Finally, she saved everything and shut down her computer. The office was mostly empty now, a few lights still on in distant rooms. She walked past Seong Hyan's office. The door was open and he sat at his desk, reading something on his computer, his expression focused. He looked up as she passed. Heading out? Yeah. I'll have the driver take you home. I can manage. I know you can. He stood. But it's late and I'm going the same direction. That was probably a lie, but Surya was too tired to argue. They rode the elevator down in silence. The car was waiting. Seong Hyan held the door for her, then slid in beside her. The driver pulled into Seoul's late-night traffic without asking for the directions. You gave them your address, Surya said. I did background on you. It's thorough. Should that worry me? Only if you have secrets. She looked at him. He was watching the city pass outside the window, his expression unreadable. Everyone has secrets, she said quietly. He turned to her. Yes, they do. The car stopped outside her building. Sung Hyan didn't move to get out. Tomorrow will be harder, he said. Once you start pulling threads, people will notice. Good. Let them notice. He almost smiled. Get some sleep, Surya. She climbed out. The car didn't leave until she was inside the building. In her apartment, she dropped her bag and sat on her bed, her mind still racing. One day in and she's already felt the weight of it. The money, the suspicion, the careful way everyone watched everyone else. And Seong Hyan, the way he'd sat beside her instead of at the head of the table, the car ride home. Small things that felt like tests she didn't understand yet. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You shouldn't have come back. Surya stared at the screen. Her hands didn't shake. She took a screenshot, saved the number, then blocked it. Someone was worried. Good. Day 2 started earlier. Surya arrived at 8 to find Jae-sung already in the conference room, with printed reports spread across the table. I pulled the subsidiary account details you asked for, he said without preamble. Going back 18 months. Thank you. He didn't leave. Just watched her start sorting through the pages. Can I ask you something? His voice was careful. Go ahead. Why did you really come back? Surya looked up. I need a job. He offered one. That's it? What else would there be? Jae-sung studied her face. Most people don't walk back into a situation that got them fired. Most people don't get job offers at midnight. She met his eyes. I'm here to find a leak. That's all. And if the leak is someone Seong Hyan trusts, then he trusts the wrong person. Something shifted in his expression. Respect, maybe. Or concern. Be careful. This organization doesn't forgive easily. He left her with the reports. Surya spent the morning cross-referencing transactions. Patterns started emerging. Small, subtle, but there. Certain accounts that moved money on specific days. Always Wednesdays. Always between 2 and 4 in the afternoon. She was deep in spreadsheets when her door opened without a knock. Sung Hyan walked in, carrying 2 cups of coffee. He set one on her desk. You take it black. It wasn't a question. Surya picked up the cup. How did you know? I pay attention. He glanced at her screens. Finding anything? Maybe. There's a pattern in the timing. Wednesdays, early afternoon. That mean anything to you? He leaned against her desk, thinking. Wednesday is when we process international transfers. Higher volume, easier to hide things in the noise. Who has access to process those? Hana, Jae-sung, 2 accountants in the lower department and me. 4 suspects. 5 if she counted him, which she probably should. I need to see the server logs, she said. Find out who was logged in during those specific windows. I'll have Ait send them over. He didn't move. Just looked at her with that same focused attention. You're fast. You hired me to be fast. I hired you to be good. Fast is a bonus. He straightened. Lunch later? There's a place nearby. Is that necessary? No. But you need to eat and I'd like the company. It was so direct she didn't have a prepared response. Okay, 1 o'clock? I'll come get you. He left with his coffee. Surya sat very still, trying to process what had just happened. A lunch invitation. Casual. Normal. Except nothing about this was normal. Her computer pinged. The server logs, already delivered. She opened them and started comparing login times to transfer times. 3 names appeared consistently. Hana, Jae-sung, and one of the accountants, a woman named Kim Min-ji. Surya made notes, highlighted entries, built a timeline. By 1 o'clock, her eyes hurt and her neck was stiff. Sung Hyeon appeared in her doorway exactly on time. They walked 6 blocks to a small restaurant tucked between taller buildings. It was quiet, traditional, the kind of place locals went. The owner greeted Seung Hyeon by name and led them to a private table in the back. "You come here often?" Surya asked. "When I need to think. The food is good and nobody bothers me." They ordered bibimbap for her, something she didn't catch the name of for him. The food came quickly. "Tell me about Ghana," he said. She looked up, surprised. "Why?" "Because I know your resume and your work history, but I don't know you." "Does that matter for the job?" "No. I'm asking because I want to know." Surya mixed her rice and vegetables, considering. "I grew up in Accra, studied economics, got a scholarship to Korea for graduate school. Stayed because the opportunities were better. Family? My parents are in Accra. I have a younger brother." She didn't elaborate. Didn't mention that Kojo had come to Korea 2 years ago, that he'd disappeared, that she'd been searching for him in every spare moment while pretending everything was fine. Sung Hyeon nodded. "Seoul is a hard city to build a life in when you're an outsider." "You're not an outsider." "No, but I've watched people try. Most give up. I don't give up easily. I noticed." He ate in silence for a moment. "That's why you're here." The conversation drifted. He asked about her time at Meridian, what she'd liked about the work, what had frustrated her. She asked him nothing personal, and he didn't push, but she noticed things. The way the restaurant owner brought him extra banchan without asking. The way he knew the neighborhood. Small pieces of a life outside the perfect office and the careful control. They walked back slowly. The afternoon was cold but clear. "Thank you for lunch," Sarasa said as they entered the building. "We'll do it again." It sounded like a promise. Back at her desk, she dove into the server logs with fresh focus. She cross-referenced login times, transfer amounts, and the shell companies receiving the money. A picture started forming. Whoever was doing this wasn't working alone. The transfers required multiple approvals, multiple access points. This was coordinated. She was printing out a timeline when her office door closed. She looked up. Hana stood with her back against the door, her expression unreadable. "We need to talk," Hana said. About what you're really doing here." Surya leaned back in her chair. "I'm investigating a financial leak." "You were in the meeting." "I was, and I've watched Sung Hyeon hire and fire a dozen investigators in 6 months. None of them got a private office. None of them had lunch with him. None of them lasted more than a week." Hana crossed her arms. "So what makes you different?" "I found the problem." "In 3 hours, yes. Very convenient." The implication hung in the air. Surya stood slowly. "You think I'm the leak. I think the timing is interesting. You find a discrepancy, get fired, then get hired back at triple salary with full access." Hana's voice was calm, deadly. "If I were stealing money, that's exactly how I'd position myself. Close to the investigation, above suspicion. And if you were stealing money, accusing me would be a great way to deflect attention." They stared at each other. "I'm watching you," Hana said quietly. "Good. Watch closely. Maybe you'll learn something." Hana left without another word. Saria's heart was pounding, but her hands were steady. She saved her work, locked her computer, and went to find Seung Hyeon. His office door was open. He was on the phone, speaking rapid Korean. He saw her and wrapped up the conversation. "Problem? Hannah thinks I'm the leak." He didn't look surprised. "She's thorough. I'd be disappointed if she didn't suspect everyone. Does that include you? Especially me?" He gestured to the chair across from his desk. "Sit. Tell me what you found today." She walked him through the patterns, the Wednesday transfers, the 3 names that kept appearing, the coordination required. He listened without interrupting, his focus complete. "This isn't one person," Surya finished. "It can't be. The system requires multiple approvals. Someone is working with someone else, or someone has access they shouldn't have. That's possible too." Seeing Hyeon stood and walked to his windows. Soul spread below, going dark as evening came on. If it's multiple people, we have a bigger problem than theft. A coup. I know. He turned to look at her. You understand what that means? It means someone wants to take what you've built, and they'll go through anyone in their way. His expression was serious. Including you. I can handle myself. I'm sure you can, but I'd prefer you didn't have to. Something in his voice made her chest tight. Why do you care? Because you're good at this. Because you're honest. And because I made you a target by bringing you back. He moved closer. If something happens to you, that's on me. They were standing too close. Surya could smell his cologne, something subtle and expensive. She stepped back. I should go. It's late. I'll have the driver. I'll take the subway. She needed air, space. I'll see you tomorrow. She left before he could argue. On the subway home, pressed between tired commuters, she tried to sort through everything. The investigation was moving fast. Too fast, maybe. She'd been there 2 days and already had suspects, patterns, a theory. And Seung Hyan, the coffee, the lunch. The way he'd looked at her when he talked about keeping her safe. She couldn't afford to be distracted. Not now. Her apartment felt too quiet when she got home. She made instant noodles, ate standing at her kitchen counter, then opened her laptop to keep working. Her phone buzzed. A text from Seung Hyan's number. Get some rest. Tomorrow is important. She stared at it. He'd never texted her before. Why tomorrow? She typed back. Because we're going to shake the tree and see what falls out. Surya put the phone down. Her pulse was racing again, and it had nothing to do with fear. This was dangerous. All of it. The investigation, the organization, and the way Ko Seung Hyan looked at her like she was a puzzle he wanted to solve. She was in trouble, and the worst part was, she didn't want to walk away. 3 started with a meeting Surya hadn't been warned about. She arrived at 8:30 to find Seung Hyan waiting in her office, leaning against her desk like he had every right to be there. He probably did. Conference room. 10 minutes. Bring everything you found. What's happening? We're shaking the tree. He pushed off the desk. I'm calling a mandatory financial review. Everyone who has account access will be there. I'm going to tell them we've identified irregularities and we're conducting a full audit. That'll make whoever is stealing panic. Exactly. He smiled, but it wasn't friendly. Panicked people make mistakes. Surya grabbed her laptop and files. You could have warned me. I just did. 10 minutes. The conference room was already full when they arrived. Jae-sung, Hana, Daniel, and 4 other people Surya recognized from the office. Plus 2 she didn't know. Both men in dark suits who stood near the wall instead of sitting. Seung Hyan took his place at the head of the table. Surya sat to his right, feeling everyone's eyes on her. Thank you for coming, Seung Hyan began. His voice was calm, casual even. Like this was a normal Tuesday meeting. We've discovered significant financial discrepancies across multiple accounts. 18 billion one minimum, possibly more. The money has been moved systematically over the past 6 months through shell companies and offshore transfers. The room went very still. Surya has identified patterns in the transfers, times, dates, accounts involved. We're conducting a full audit starting today. Everyone in this room will be interviewed. All account access will be temporarily reviewed and reauthorized. No exceptions. Hana's expression didn't change, but her fingers tightened on her pen. Jae-sung leaned back in his chair, his face unreadable. Daniel looked shocked. 18 billion? How is that possible? That's what we're going to find out. Seung Hyan gestured to Surya. Full cooperation with any requests she makes. Anyone who refuses will be terminated immediately and reported to authorities. Clear? Nods around the table. Some genuine, some tight. Good. Surya walked them through what you need. She opened her laptop, pulled up her presentation on the screen. Showed them the timeline, the pattern of Wednesday transfers, the shell companies. She didn't name suspects, didn't point fingers, just laid out the facts. When she finished, the room was silent. Questions? Seung Hyan asked. One of the accountants, a young guy named Lee, raised his hand. Are we suspects? Everyone is a suspect, Seung Hyan said simply, including me. This wasn't personal until someone made it personal by stealing. Now we find them, and we deal with it. The way he said deal with it made Surya's skin prickle. The meeting ended. People filed out quietly, some whispering to each other. Hana left without looking at anyone. Jason stopped at the door, glanced back at Sin Chyon, then left. Daniel approached Saria as she packed up her laptop. This is intense. It's necessary, I guess. He smiled, but it looked strained. For what it's worth, I hope you find them. Whoever is doing this is putting all of us at risk. How so? If this organization falls apart, we all lose our jobs. Some of us have been here for years. He glanced toward where Sung Hyan stood talking to the two men in suits. He doesn't forgive betrayal. When you find who did this, it won't end well for them. Would you prefer we let them keep stealing? No. He ran a hand through his hair. Be careful, okay? People are going to be on edge now. He left. Seung Hyan finished his conversation and walked over. That went well. You just told everyone in your inner circle that you don't trust them. I don't. Not completely. Trust is earned and someone broke mine. He picked up her laptop bag for her. Now we wait and watch. See who gets nervous. Who makes contact with who. Who suddenly needs time off or starts moving their own money. You're going to monitor them. I've been monitoring them since this started. Now they know it. He held the door for her. Come on, we have interviews to conduct. They spent the next 6 hours talking to every person who had account access. Seung Hyan asked most of the questions. Saria watched body language, listened for inconsistencies, took notes. Lee, the accountant, was nervous but answered everything directly. He was young, barely 25, and clearly terrified of Seung Hyan. The other accountant, Kim Min-ji, was cooler. She'd been with the organization for 3 years, knew the systems inside and out. Her answers were precise, almost rehearsed. Where were you on Wednesday, November 10th, between 2 and 4 p.m.? Saria asked. Here, processing the weekly international transfers. Alone? No, Hana was supervising. She always does on Wednesdays. Interesting. Saria made a note. They interviewed Daniel next. He was relaxed, cooperative, made jokes to cut the tension. Too relaxed, maybe. I'm in acquisitions, he said. I identify targets, run evaluations, make recommendations. I don't process transfers. But you have account access, Seung Hyan said. For research purposes. I need to see cash flow and assets when I'm evaluating potential purchases. When was the last time you logged into the transfer system? Daniel thought about it. 2 months ago? Maybe 3? I'd have to check my records. Do that. Send them to Saria by end of day. Of course. When Daniel left, Saria looked at Sung Hyan. He's hiding something. Everyone is hiding something. Question is whether it's relevant. He checked his watch. 2 more. Jae-sung and Hana. Jae-sung came in calm and prepared. He'd brought his own records, printed and organized in a folder. I processed 42 transfers during the time frame in question, he said, sliding the folder across the table. All approved, all documented. Cross-reference with the irregularities Saria found. None of mine match. Saria took the folder and scanned the first page. The dates were different. These were Thursdays and Fridays, not Wednesdays. You never process Wednesday transfers? She asked. Rarely. That's Hana's day. She prefers to handle international transfers personally. Seung Hyan and Saria exchanged glances. How long has that been her preference? Seung Hyan asked. 8 months, maybe 9. She said it was more efficient to have one person manage the international workflow. Right around when the thefts started. Thank you, Jae-sung. That's helpful. He stood. I've worked for you for 15 years. I'd never betray that. I know. Seung Hyan's voice softened slightly. But I had to ask. I understand. When he left, Saria pulled up her timeline. Hana had motive, means, and opportunity. She restructured the workflow to give herself unsupervised access. She's in the system every Wednesday, and she's been defensive since I arrived. She's also brilliant and loyal, and I've trusted her for 8 years. People change. Yes, they do. He stood and walked to the window. Let's talk to her before we draw conclusions. Hana arrived exactly on time, carrying nothing. She sat cross from them and waited. Walk us through your Wednesday routine, Sung Hyan said. I arrive at 7. Review overnight reports from our international accounts. At 9, I meet with Min-ji to go over pending transfers. Between 10 and 4, we process everything that's queued. After 4, I reconcile and generate reports. You do this alone? Min-ji is with me until around 2. After that, I'm alone. The work requires focus. So between 2 and 4 every Wednesday, you're alone with full access to international transfers. Hana's eyes narrowed. Yes, because you asked me to manage this 8 months ago. You said you wanted someone senior handling international movements. Sung Hyun didn't react. I did, and you agreed. So now I'm a suspect because I did what you asked. You're a suspect because someone with your access is stealing, and you have that access unsupervised every single week during the exact window when money disappears. His voice stayed level. If you were me, what would you think? Hana stood up. I would think that whoever is doing this is smart enough to make it look like someone else. I would think that framing the person with the most obvious access is a good strategy. She looked at Saria. I would also think that bringing in an outsider who mysteriously found the problem in 3 hours is suspicious. Sit down, Seong Hyun said quietly. Hana sat. Your defensiveness isn't helping your case. Neither is your accusation. They stared at each other. Years of history in that look. Trust and tension all tangled up. I need your login records, Saria said. Every time you access the transfer system in the past 6 months. Timestamps, IP addresses, everything. You'll have them in an hour. Hana stood again. Are we done? For now. She left. The door closed hard behind her. Sung Hyun rubbed his eyes. That went poorly. She's scared. Scared people get angry. Or she's guilty and playing defensive. Saria closed her laptop. I need to see those login records. And I need to check something. What? Whether it's possible to use someone else's credentials. If the thief is smart, they might be logging in as Hana to frame her. That would require access to her passwords, or access to the server to create a backdoor. Saria gathered her things. I need to talk to your IT department. I'll take you. The IT department was on a lower floor, a room full of servers and monitors and 3 people who looked up when Song Hyun walked in. This is Saria. She needs information about login security and possible backdoors in the transfer system. Give her whatever she asks for. The head IT guy, who introduced himself as Park Min-soo, looked intrigued. Backdoors. You think someone hacked the system? I think someone smart enough to steal 18 billion won is smart enough to cover their tracks. Surya pulled up a chair. Show me how the authentication works. For the next 2 hours, she and Min-soo went through the security protocols. The system required 2-factor authentication, password plus a physical token that generated temporary codes, nearly impossible to fake. Unless. What about admin access? Surya asked. Min-soo hesitated. Admin can generate temporary tokens for password resets. Who has admin access? Me. And 2 other people. Names, Hana and Jae-sung. Of course, Surya leaned back. Can you pull logs of every time admin access was used to generate tokens in the past 6 months? Yeah, give me a few minutes. He typed rapidly. A report started generating. Sung Hyun's phone rang. He stepped out to take it. The report finished. Min-soo frowned at the screen. That's weird. What? Admin tokens were generated for Hana's account 17 times in the past 6 months, but she only requested 3 password resets. I have the tickets. Saria's pulse jumped. Someone used admin access to create fake credentials for Hana's account. Looks like it. Who? He scrolled through the logs. The access came from Jae-sung's account. But, he clicked deeper. The IP address is wrong. These all came from an external connection. Jae-sung only logs in from the office. So someone compromised Jae-sung's admin account and used it to create fake Hana credentials. That's what this looks like. Sung Hyun came back in. Problem? Surya showed him the screen. Explained what they'd found. His expression went cold. Someone hacked my system. Used admin credentials to frame Hana. And covered it by compromising Jae-sung's account. Which means it's someone who understands the security infrastructure. Someone with high-level access. Min-soo pulled up another screen. I can trace the external IP, see where the connection came from. Do it. They waited. Saraya's mind raced. This was sophisticated, planned. Whoever was doing this had been setting it up for months. Got it. Min-soo highlighted an address. The external access came from a VPN, but I can see the original connection point. It's a coffee shop in Gangnam, about 6 blocks from here. Can you see when these connections happened? Yeah, always weekday mornings between 7 and 8 a.m., before office hours. Someone stopping at a coffee shop on their way to work. Sung Hyun pulled out his phone. Send me that address, and pull security footage from the office for those same mornings. I want to know who arrived between 8 and 8:30 on those days. On it. They went back upstairs. Sung Hyun was quiet in the elevator, his jaw tight. You're angry, Surya said. I'm furious. Someone didn't just steal from me. They tried to destroy 2 people I trust in the process. He looked at her. If you hadn't pushed deeper, I might have blamed Hannah. We don't know she's innocent yet, but we know someone wants me to think she's guilty. That's almost worse. The elevator opened. They walked back to the private section. I need food, Sung Hyan said, and I need to think. Come on. Where? My place. It's private and I have a cook who can actually make dinner. Saria hesitated. His place felt like crossing a line. Just dinner, he said, reading her expression. And strategy. We need to figure out the next move and I don't trust these walls right now. Okay. They took his car. The driver navigated evening traffic while Seung Hyan made phone calls in rapid Korean. Saria watched the city pass outside, her mind still on the IP logs and the coffee shop and the careful way someone had built a frame around Hana. The car pulled up to a building in Hanam-dong. Expensive neighborhood, quiet streets. The penthouse required a private elevator. Seung Hyan's apartment was nothing like his office. The office was impersonal and perfect. This was lived in. Books on shelves, art on walls that looked chosen not expensive, a kitchen that showed signs of actual use. Make yourself comfortable, he said, shrugging off his jacket. I'll let the cook know we're here. Saria stood in the living room, looking out at Seoul spread below. Different view than his office, but just as expansive. He came back with 2 glasses of wine. She's making galbi and banchan. Should be ready in 20 minutes. You have a cook who just appears when you need her? She comes 3 times a week. Happened to be today. He handed her a glass. Sit. Tell me what you're thinking. They sat on opposite ends of his couch, professional distance. I'm thinking whoever is doing this has been planning it for months. The fake credentials, the framing, the careful timing. This isn't opportunistic. It's calculated, agreed, which means it's someone patient, someone who can play a long game. She sipped her wine. Daniel is too scattered. Lee is too young. Minji is possible, but I don't see the motive. What about Jae-sung? His account was compromised. But, she paused. What if that's the point? What if he compromised his own account to create distance? Jae-sung has been with me since the beginning. He helped me build this. People change. You said so yourself. Seung Hyan set down his wine. If it's him, I need to know why. Money is usually why. He makes plenty. I've made sure of that. Then maybe it's not about money. Saria turned to face him. Maybe it's about power, or revenge, or something else entirely. They sat in silence. The cook brought out food and set it on the dining table. Then disappeared. They ate. The galbi was perfect, tender and flavorful. The banchan was homemade. Saria realized she hadn't eaten real food in days. Just convenience store meals and coffee. This is incredible, she said. I'll tell her you said so. He watched her eat. When was the last time you had a proper meal? Lunch with you. 2 days ago. That's not acceptable. You need to take care of yourself. I've been busy. You've been working 18-hour days on my problem. That's different than busy. He refilled her banchan. Eat. We still have work to do tonight. After dinner, they spread out in his living room with laptops and files. Seung Hyan pulled up the security footage Min Soo had sent. They watched morning arrivals, checking timestamps against the IP logs. Jae-sung appeared consistently at 8:15. Hana at 7:30. Daniel varied between 8 and 9. Minji at 8 sharp. Wait, Saria said. Go back to November 3rd. He rewound. They watched people enter the building. There, Daniel, arriving at 7:58, 12 minutes before he usually showed up. On a morning when the coffee shop IP was used. Check the other dates. They went through them one by one. 5 out of the 17 dates matched. Daniel arriving early. It's not proof, Seung Hyan said. No, but it's a pattern. He made a call. Spoke quietly in Korean. Hung up. I have someone checking Daniel's financials. Bank accounts, property, investments. If he's stealing 18 billion won, it has to be going somewhere. He's smart enough to hide it. No one is that smart. He closed his laptop. We'll know by morning. Saria checked her watch. Nearly 11. I should go. I'll drive you. You don't have to. I know. In the car, she leaned her head against the window. Exhaustion was catching up. You're good at this, Seung Hyan said quietly. At what? Seeing patterns. Thinking 3 steps ahead. Not giving up. He glanced at her. I'm glad you came back. You didn't give me much choice. You had a choice. You could have said no at the door. And then what? Leaves Seoul? Start over somewhere else? She looked at him. This is my home now. I wasn't going to let someone take that without a fight. Something shifted in his expression. Seoul is lucky to have you. The car stopped outside her building. She reached for the door handle, but he touched her arm. Surya, be careful tomorrow. If it is Daniel, and he realizes we're closing in, he might do something desperate. I can handle desperate. I know you can, but you shouldn't have to alone. His hand was still on her arm. If anything feels wrong, call me, anytime. The touch was warm through her sleeve. She should move. She didn't. Okay, she said softly. He let go. She got out of the car. In her apartment, she stood in the dark for a moment, trying to slow her heartbeat. This was dangerous. Not the investigation. The way she'd felt sitting in his apartment, eating dinner, working beside him on his couch. The way he'd looked at her in the car. She was supposed to be focused on finding the leak. Instead, she was thinking about Ko Sung-hyan's hand on her arm and the quiet way he'd said Seoul is lucky to have you. Her phone buzzed. Text from Sung-hyan. Sleep well. Tomorrow we finish this. She typed back. Promises, promises. 3 dots appeared then. I don't make promises I can't keep. Surya put her phone down and got ready for bed. But sleep didn't come easy. Her mind kept spinning through IP addresses and security footage, and the moment in the car when everything had felt too close. At 3 a.m., her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, then thought about the warning text from before. Hello? Stop looking. The voice was distorted, mechanical. You have 48 hours to drop the investigation and leave Seoul. Or someone you love gets hurt. Her blood went cold. Who is this? 48 hours. The line went dead. Surya sat in her dark bedroom, hands shaking now. Someone you love gets hurt. She only had one person she loved in Seoul. Kojo, her missing brother. The reason she couldn't leave even if she wanted to. The secret she'd kept from everyone, including Sung-hyan. Whoever made that call knew about him, which meant they'd been digging into her life the same way she'd been digging into theirs. She grabbed her laptop and opened the encrypted folder where she kept everything related to Kojo's disappearance. Photos, the last messages he'd sent, addresses of places he'd worked, names of friends who'd stopped answering her calls. She hadn't looked at this in weeks. The investigation had consumed everything. Now someone was using it against her. Her phone rang again. Sung-hyan this time. Did you get a call? He asked without preamble. Yes. How did you know? Because I just got one too. Different threat. Same voice distortion. She heard tension in his voice. What did they say to you? 48 hours to drop the investigation, or someone I love gets hurt. Silence. Then, who do you love in Seoul, Surya? The question hung there. She could lie. Should lie. My brother, she said quietly. He came here 2 years ago. He disappeared 6 months ago. I've been looking for him. More silence. Why didn't you tell me? Because it's not your problem. And because I don't know if your world had something to do with why he disappeared. And you still came to work for me. I didn't have a choice. The visa, the timing, everything. Her voice cracked slightly. I've been trying to find him while working your case, and now someone knows, and they're going to use it, and I don't know what to do. You're going to come here now. Pack a bag, I'm sending the car. What? No. I'm not running. You're not running. You're regrouping somewhere safe while I figure out who made those calls and what they want. His voice was firm. Please, Surya, don't fight me on this. She wanted to argue. But the fear was real, and she was tired, and the idea of being alone in her apartment while someone out there knew about Kojo made her feel exposed. Okay, 20 minutes. The car will be there in 10. She packed quickly. Clothes, laptop, files, her folder on Kojo. Grabbed her passport just in case. The car arrived exactly on time. Sung-hyan met her at his door still dressed, like he hadn't even tried to sleep. He took her bag. Guest room is this way. Bathroom attached. You need anything, I'm right across the hall. The room was beautiful and impersonal. Hotel nice. Thank you, she said. He set her bag down. We're going to find your brother. And we're going to find whoever made those calls. But first, you're going to sleep because you look exhausted. I'm fine. You're shaking. She looked down. He was right, her hands were trembling. It's just adrenaline. It's fear, which is normal. He moved closer. You're safe here. I promise. You said you don't make promises you can't keep. Exactly. His eyes were serious. Get some rest. We'll deal with everything in the morning. He left, closing the door quietly. Surya sat on the edge of the bed. The apartment was silent around her. She should feel awkward staying in her boss's guest room. Instead, she just felt tired. She changed into pajamas, plugged in her phone, and climbed under covers that were softer than anything she owned. Sleep came faster than she expected. She woke to daylight and the smell of coffee. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then it all came back, the call, the threat. Seung Hyun's guest room. She checked her phone. 8:30. She'd slept 5 hours straight. There was a note slipped under her door. Coffee in the kitchen. Take your time. She showered, dressed, and followed the coffee smell. Seung Hyun sat at his kitchen counter with a laptop and multiple phones. He looked up when she entered. Morning. There's food if you're hungry. Just coffee for now. She poured a cup. Did you sleeps? Some. He turned his laptop toward her. I had my people trace the calls. Both came from burner phones. Activated yesterday, used once. Already offline. Untraceable. So we've got nothing. We've got timing. Whoever made those calls did it after our interviews yesterday. After we started closing in, he pulled up another screen. And I got Daniel's financial records. He's clean. Too clean. What does that mean? It means his visible accounts show exactly what they should. Normal salary, normal expenses, normal investments. But he highlighted a section. He filed paperwork 3 months ago to start a private investment fund. Very quiet, very small. And he's been moving money into it. How much? 6 billion won so far. Surya set down her coffee. That's a third of what's missing. Exactly. Seung Hyun closed the laptop. I'm bringing him in today. Officially. With lawyers and everything documented. He'll know we're on to him. Good. Let him know. Let him make a mistake. Or let him run. He won't run. He's too confident. Seung Hyun stood. Get ready. We're doing this at 10. At exactly 10 a.m., Daniel Cho walked into the conference room to find Seung Hyun, Saria, 2 lawyers, and a digital recorder on the table. His smile faltered. What's this? Sit down, Daniel. He sat. Am I in trouble? That depends on how honest you are in the next hour. Seung Hyun nodded to one of the lawyers who started the recorder. Tell me about your investment fund. Daniel's face went carefully blank. What investment fund? The one you registered 3 months ago. The one with 6 billion won in assets that match exactly with missing funds from my accounts. The room went silent. Daniel looked at Surya. You did this. I did my job. Your job. He laughed, but it sounded wrong. You've been here less than a week, and you think you understand how this works. I understand theft. I understand fraud. And I understand that you've been stealing from this organization for months. She opened her laptop. Want to see the evidence? I want to see a lawyer. You have 2 right here. Seung Hyun leaned forward. Talk to me, Daniel. Why? Why? Daniel's composure cracked. Because I've been here 7 years. 7 years watching you build an empire while I run errands and evaluate acquisitions. 7 years of being smart enough to see every opportunity but never allowed to take them. So you stole. I took what I earned. He stood up. You want loyalty? Pay for it. You want trust? Stop treating people like employees and start treating them like partners. I treated you well. You treated me like a tool, useful when needed, otherwise ignored. He looked at Surya. And then you bring her in, an outsider, and give her everything. Access, trust, your personal attention. After one conversation at midnight.
Oh, jealousy.
Resentment that had been building for years. Sit down, Seung Hyun said quietly. Daniel sat. Here's what happens next. You're going to transfer every one back into the accounts you stole from. You're going to sign a confession. And then you're going to disappear. No police, no charges, no public scandal. But you're done in Seoul, done in finance. If I ever see you again, the deal is off and I hand everything to prosecutors. And if I refuse, then I destroy you. Professionally, financially, personally. I have the evidence and the resources. His voice was ice. Choose. Daniel stared at him. Then at Surya, then at the table. I'll transfer the money. If you're still here and your heart is racing like mine, drop a comment and let me know what you think Daniel's next move is going to be. Because I have a feeling this isn't over yet. The transfer took 3 hours. Daniel sat at a computer with one of the lawyers watching every keystroke. 6 billion won moved back into Meridian accounts. Not all of it, but enough. When it was done, he signed the confession. The lawyers witnessed it. Then security escorted him out. Seung Hyun and Surya stood at the window, watching Daniel leave the building for the last time. That felt too easy, Surya said. Because it was. Sung Hyan's jaw was tight. He gave up too fast, and 6 billion isn't 18 billion. Someone else is involved. Or he has the rest hidden somewhere we can't trace. Maybe. He turned to her. But those phone calls last night came after we interviewed him. If he made them, why threaten us when he was already caught? Saria's stomach dropped. Unless he wasn't working alone. And whoever he was working with is still out there. That's what I'm thinking. Her phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. You got Daniel. Good job. But he was just the face. The real player is still in the game, and they're coming for you next. She showed Sung Hyan. His expression went dark. We're not going back to the office today. We're going somewhere safe while I figure out who sent this. Where? Somewhere no one from my organization knows about. They took his car to a building in Itaewon. Smaller, older, unremarkable. He used a physical key to open the door. No security system, no cameras. The apartment inside was sparse. Couch, table, kitchenette. Windows that overlooked a quiet street. What is this place? Somewhere I come when I need to disappear. He locked the door behind them. No one knows about it except me. We're safe here. Saria set down her bag. For how long? As long as it takes. He made calls. Spoke in Korean, too rapid for her to follow. She sat on the couch and pulled out her laptop, going back through all her evidence. Daniel had access and motive. But the sophistication of the hack, the framing of Hana, the careful setup, that required technical knowledge Daniel didn't have. Someone had helped him. Someone who understood the systems intimately. She was deep in server logs when Sung Hyan sat beside her. Min-soo is running a full security audit. Every account, every login, every access point. If there's another hole, he'll find it. Good. And I'm having someone look for your brother. Her head snapped up. What? You said he disappeared 6 months ago. You've been looking alone. Now you're not alone. His voice was gentle. Let me help. Why? Because you helped me. Because it's the right thing to do. And because. He stopped. Because what? Because I care what happens to you. He said it simply, like it was obvious. So let me help. Tears stung her eyes. She blinked them back. Okay. I need everything you have on him. Photos, last known address, places he worked, people he knew. She opened the folder on her laptop, showed him everything. The last text Kojo had sent. Working late, talk tomorrow. That was 6 months ago. No tomorrow had come. Sung Hyan studied the information. I'll start here. We'll find him, Saria. You can't promise that. Watch me. They stayed in the safe house for 2 days. Sung Hyan worked his network from burner phones. Saria analyzed data until her eyes burned. They ordered food that got delivered to a different address and picked up by one of Sung Hyan's people. They slept in shifts. On the second night, Saria woke at 2 a.m. to find Sung Hyan still awake, staring at his laptop screen. You need to sleep, she said. Can't. I'm close to something. He turned the screen toward her. Min-soo found another admin account, hidden in the system, created 2 years ago. Who? That's the problem. The account name is just random numbers, but it has access to everything. More than Hana, more than Jae-sung. This account can see things even I can't see from my login. Saria sat beside him. Someone created a ghost admin. They've been watching everything for 2 years. And they helped Daniel steal. Gave him the tools, the access, the cover. Sung Hyan scrolled through access logs. This account logged in 3 hours ago. Checked the audit Min-soo is running. Whoever this is knows we're looking. Can Min-soo trace it? He's trying. But this person is good, better than good. He rubbed his face. I keep thinking about who has this level of skill. Who could build something like this and hide it for 2 years? Min-soo himself. Maybe. But he's the one who found it. Why expose himself? Unless he's playing both sides. Pretending to help while actually controlling everything. Saria pulled up her own notes. What if Daniel wasn't the mastermind? What if he was just the visible piece while someone technical ran everything behind the scenes? Sung Hyan went very still. Min-soo has been with me for 5 years. He built our entire security infrastructure, which means he knows every weakness in it. They stared at each other. I need to confront him, Sung Hyan said, but carefully. If he panics and wipes the servers, we lose all evidence. So we set a trap. What kind of trap? Saria thought fast. We make him think he's won. Send him a message from your account saying, you're shutting down the investigation. Daniel confessed. Case closed. Thank him for his help and tell him to restore normal access to everyone. And then we watch what he does. If he's innocent, he'll just restore access. If he's guilty, he'll use that ghost account to cover his tracks. Move evidence, delete logs, something. Seung-hyeon smiled. It was sharp. You're devious. I'm thorough. She opened a secure connection to his email. Send it now. Make it convincing. He typed quickly. The message was perfect. Professional, grateful, completely believable. They sent it at 2:30 a.m. At 2:45, Min-soo responded. Good to hear it's resolved. I'll handle the restoration in the morning. They waited. At 3:15, the ghost account logged in. Sarya and Seung-hyeon watched through a monitoring program Min-soo didn't know existed. He'd built the security system, but Seung-hyeon had built a backup that reported directly to him. The ghost account accessed the audit files, started deleting records, carefully, methodically, removing evidence of its own existence. Got him, Seung-hyeon said quietly. They recorded everything. Timestamps, actions, files deleted, proof. At 4 a.m., Seung-hyeon made a call. Jae-sung, I need you to do something for me, quietly. 20 minutes later, Jae-sung arrived at the safe house. He looked worried. What's going on? Seung-hyeon showed him everything. The ghost account, the deletions, the evidence pointing to Min-soo. Jae-sung's face went hard. He used my credentials to frame Hana. Yes. What do you need? I need you to go to the office early, before Min-soo arrives. Lock him out of the physical servers. Then bring him to me. Where? The warehouse in Seongsu, the one we don't use anymore. Jae-sung understood immediately. Neutral territory. Private. I'll handle it. He left. Soraya looked at Seung-hyeon. What happens at the warehouse? We get answers, and we make sure he can't hurt anyone else. His voice was calm, but there was something underneath it, something cold. Seung-hyeon, he looked at her. Don't do anything you can't come back from. His expression softened slightly. I won't. But he needs to understand what he's done. They drove to Seongsu as dawn broke over Seoul. The warehouse sat near the Han River, old industrial area that had been half converted to trendy cafes and studios. This building was still abandoned. Inside was empty space and echoes. Seung-hyeon's people were already there, 4 of them, quiet and professional. At 7:30, Jae-sung arrived with Min-soo. Min-soo looked confused until he saw Seung-hyeon. Then his face went carefully blank. What's this about? Sit down. There was a single chair in the middle of the space. Min-soo sat. Seung-hyeon pulled out a tablet and played the recording from last night. The ghost account logging in, the files being deleted. Min-soo watched without expression. When it finished, Seung-hyeon said, Explain. That account isn't mine. Don't lie. We traced the creation date back to your workstation. We have 2 years of access logs showing the same usage patterns as your regular account. Same hours, same behavior, same fingerprints. Seung-hyeon crouched in front of him. You built a backdoor into my system. You helped Daniel steal 18 billion won. You framed Hana and compromised Jae-sung. And last night you tried to delete the evidence. Min-soo said nothing. Why? Still nothing. Seung-hyeon stood, nodded to one of his people. The man stepped forward. Min-soo flinched. Wait. His voice cracked. Wait. I'll talk. Seung-hyeon held up a hand. His person stepped back. Talk. Daniel approached me a year ago. Said he had a business opportunity but needed technical help. Offered me 20% of whatever he made. Min-soo's words came fast now. I didn't know he was stealing from you at first. I thought it was a legitimate side venture. By the time I realized what he was doing, I was already involved. So you helped him cover it up. I panicked. I thought if I made it look like someone else, like Hana or Jae-sung, you'd fire them and stop looking. He looked at Sarya, but then you showed up, and you saw everything. I knew it was over. The phone calls, Sarya said, threatening me. Threatening Seung-hyeon, that was you? Yes. I thought if I scared you enough, you'd leave. Both of you would back off and I could clean everything up. His voice dropped. I'm sorry, I never meant for it to go this far. Where's the rest of the money? Seung-hyeon's voice was ice. Daniel only had 6 billion. Where's the other 12? Min-soo hesitated. One of Seung-hyeon's people moved closer. Offshore accounts. Cayman Islands. I can give you the account numbers. Do it. Min-soo pulled out his phone with shaking hands and opened a notes app. Read out a series of account numbers. Jae-sung wrote them down. Is that everything? Yes, all of it. Seung-hyeon looked at Jae-sung. Verify those numbers. If they're real and the money is there, arrange the transfers back. Jae-sung stepped away to make calls. Seung-hyeon turned back to Min-soo. Here's what happens now. You're going to sign a full confession. You're going to cooperate with recovering everyone. And then you're going to leave Korea. Tonight. If you ever come back, if I ever hear your name again, I don't stop my people next time. Understand? Min-soo nodded rapidly. Say it. I understand. Good. Jae-sung came back. The accounts are real. 12.3 billion won total. I can have it transferred by end of day. Do it. Seung-hyeon looked at one of his people. Take him to process the confession. Then to the airport. Make sure he gets on a plane. They led Min-soo away. The warehouse went quiet. Surya realized her hands were shaking again. The confrontation had been intense, controlled, but she'd seen the potential for violence underneath it all. You okay? Sung-hyeon asked. That was terrifying, but necessary. He moved closer. He threatened you. Threatened to hurt people you love. I needed him to understand that's not acceptable. I know, She took a breath. Your world is darker than I thought. Yes, it is. He didn't apologize for it. Is that a problem? She thought about it. Really thought about it. The past week had shown her sides of soul she'd never seen. Power that didn't show up on legal documents. Consequences that happened in warehouses instead of courtrooms. But it had also shown her Sung-hyeon. The way he protected the people he cared about. The way he dropped everything to help find her brother. The way he'd kept her safe. No, she said finally. It's not a problem. Something shifted in his expression. Relief, maybe. Or something deeper. Good, because I have news about Kojo. Her heart stopped. What? My people found him. He's alive. Working at a restaurant in Busan, under a different name. The world tilted. He's alive? Yes. He ran from a debt. Not a huge one, but enough that he was scared. He's been hiding, working under the table, afraid to contact anyone. Seung-hyeon pulled out his phone and showed her a photo. Kojo, older, thinner, but alive, standing outside a restaurant in a server's uniform. Sarya's eyes filled with tears. When was this taken? Yesterday. My person confirmed it's him. He's safe. Working hard. Staying out of trouble. The debt, how much? 3 million won, already handled. She looked up sharply. What? I paid it. The people he owed won't look for him anymore. He said it like it was nothing. Like 3 million won was pocket change. You can contact him whenever you're ready. Or we can go to Busan, and you can see him in person. The tears spilled over. Surya tried to wipe them away, but they kept coming. 6 months of fear and searching and desperate hope. And now Kojo was alive. Safe. Free. Thank you. Her voice broke. Thank you. Seung-hyeon pulled her into a hug. It was careful at first, like he wasn't sure if it was allowed. Then she collapsed against him and his arms tightened. You're welcome, he said quietly. They stood like that for a long moment. Surya crying into his shoulder. Seung-hyeon holding her like she was something precious. Finally, she pulled back, wiping her face. Sorry, I'm a mess. You're allowed to be a mess. You just found your brother, because of you. Because you were brave enough to stay in Seoul and fight for what mattered. He brushed a tear from her cheek. That's all you. Jae-sung cleared his throat from across the warehouse. They stepped apart. The transfers are complete. All 18 billion won is back in the accounts, plus the 6 from Daniel makes 24 billion total. Seung-hyeon nodded. Good, thank you. What do you want to do about Hana? She deserves to know she's cleared. I'll talk to her today, along with everyone else. He looked at Sarya. The investigation is over. You did what I hired you to do. Right, the 30 days, the job. It was done. So what happens now? She asked. Now you decide. The offer still stands. Permanent position, full visa sponsorship, triple the salary. Or you walk away with my gratitude and a reference that will open any door in Seoul. He kept his voice professional, but his eyes were anything but. Your choice. Before she could answer, her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Then thought about Kojo. Hello? Sarya? The voice was hesitant. Familiar, her breath caught. Kojo? Yeah, it's me. Someone paid my debt and told me it was safe to call you. Was that real? Or a trap? It's so real. She was crying again. Where are you? Busan, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I disappeared. I was scared and stupid, and I thought I was protecting you by staying away. I've been looking everywhere. I know. I heard you were asking around. That's how I knew you were still in Seoul. His voice cracked. I wanted to call, but I was afraid whoever I owed would find me. They won't. It's handled. Everything is handled. She looked at Sung-hyeon. He was watching her with soft eyes. Can I come see you? Yes, please. I miss you. I miss you too. I'll be there tomorrow. They talked for 10 more minutes. He told her about the restaurant, the little apartment he rented, how he'd been learning to make bibimbap. She told him she was safe, working, that Seoul was still home. When they hung up, she felt lighter than she had in months. Thank you, she said to Sung Hyun again, for all of it. Stop thanking me. You earned this. He gestured to the door. Come on, let's get out of this warehouse. I need real coffee and you need real food. They went to the same restaurant where they'd had lunch before. The owner recognized Sung Hyun and brought them tea while they waited for food. I want the job, Surya said. He looked up. Yeah, Seoul is home. This work is what I'm good at, and she hesitated. And I'm not ready to walk away. From the job, she meant, but also from him, from whatever this was between them. Good, he smiled, real and warm. Because I wasn't ready to let you go. The food came. They ate and talked about normal things. Her plans to visit Kojo. His plans to restructure security now that Min Soo was gone. The upcoming quarter's projections. But underneath it all was something else. A current neither of them named. After lunch, they went back to the office. Seung Hyun called a meeting with everyone. Hana, Jae Sung, the accountants, Daniel's replacement. He explained everything. Daniel and Min Soo's betrayal, the recovery of the funds, Surya's role in solving it. Hana looked at Surya with new respect. You cleared my name. I cleared the truth. Your name cleared itself. Still, thank you. Jae Sung nodded his approval. The others looked relieved. Surya will be joining us permanently, Sung Hyun announced. As senior financial analyst and investigator, she has my complete trust and authority. Treat her accordingly. It was official now. She had a position, a place, a future here. The meeting ended. People filed out. Hana stopped at the door. Drinks sometime? She asked Surya. Actual social drinks, not work. I'd like that. Hana almost smiled. Good. When everyone was gone, Seung Hyun and Surya stood in his office looking out at Seoul in the afternoon light. I need to go to Busan tomorrow, she said. See Kojo. Make sure he's really okay. I'll come with you. You don't have to, I know. But I'd like to meet him if that's okay. She looked at him. This careful, powerful man who'd turned her world upside down in less than 2 weeks. Who'd given her back her career and her brother and something else she was afraid to name. Okay, she said softly. They took the train to Busan the next morning, 2.5 hours through countryside and coast. Seung Hyun worked on his laptop. Surya watched Korea pass outside the window. The restaurant where Kojo worked was small and local, tucked in a neighborhood away from the tourist areas. They arrived at 3, between lunch and dinner service. Kojo was wiping down tables. He looked up when the door opened. For a second, he just stared. Then he dropped the cloth and crossed the room in 3 steps. Surya met him halfway. They hugged hard, both of them crying. I'm sorry, Kojo kept saying. I'm so sorry. You're safe. That's all that matters. They pulled apart. Kojo looked at Sung Hyun, who'd stayed back to give them space. Who's this? This is Sung Hyun, my boss, and the person who found you. Kojo's eyes went wide. He bowed quickly. Thank you, for the debt, for everything. You're welcome. Sung Hyun bowed back. Your sister is important to me. That makes you important to me. The way he said it made Surya's chest tight. They sat and talked for an hour. Kojo explained everything. The debt had started small, but the interest had grown. He'd panicked and run, been too ashamed to ask for help. You can always ask me for help, Surya said. Always. I know that now. Seung Hyun offered Kojo a job in Seoul. Legitimate work with one of his companies, good pay, proper visa. Think about it, he said when Kojo looked overwhelmed. No pressure. But the offer stands. They had dinner at the restaurant. The owner, who'd been kind to Kojo, brought out extra dishes. They ate and laughed, and Surya felt pieces of herself she'd lost finally clicking back into place. On the train back to Seoul, she and Sung Hyun sat in comfortable silence. Thank you, she said quietly, for today, for all of it. You keep thanking me, because I keep meaning it. He turned to her. They were sitting close in the train seats, shoulders almost touching. Surya, I need to tell you something. Her heart beat faster. Okay, this past week, working with you, getting to know you, it's been. He paused, choosing words carefully. It's been the most alive I've felt in years. You challenge me. You don't perform for me. You see me as a person, not a position. And I don't want that to end just because the case is over. What are you saying? I'm saying I want to have coffee with you in the morning, lunch in the afternoon. Dinner when we work late. I want to know what you think about things that have nothing to do with finance. I want. He stopped. Started again. I want to see where this goes. If you want that too. She should be careful. He was her boss. This was complicated. There were 1,000 reasons to say no. I want that too, she said. His smile was a sunrise. Yeah? Yeah. He took her hand. Laced their fingers together. They rode the rest of the way to Seoul like that. Over the next 2 weeks, things settled into a new normal. Surya moved into a better apartment, one she could actually afford with her new salary. Kojo decided to take the job offer and moved back to Seoul. Hana became something like a friend. Jasung taught her the deeper workings of the organization. And Sung Hyeon, they had coffee every morning, lunch most days, dinner when they worked late, which was often. They talked about everything. Her childhood in Accra, his complicated family history, their dreams for the future. It was slow and careful and perfect. 1 month after the investigation ended, Surya was working late in her office. Most of the staff had gone home. She was finishing a report when someone knocked. Seung Hyeon leaned in the doorway. Still here? Almost done. I'm ordering dinner. Want something? Whatever you're getting is fine. He smiled. You're still not picky. I'm still hungry. They ate in his office with Seoul glittering below. Talked about the report she was working on, a new acquisition he was considering, and whether Kojo was settling in okay at his new job. When dinner was done, Surya stood to leave. Wait, Sung Hyeon said. She turned. He stood and crossed to her. They were close enough that she could see gold flecks in his dark eyes. I've been patient, he said quietly. I've been careful. I've been respectful of the fact that we work together, and this is complicated. But I really want to kiss you right now. Her breath caught, then stopped being patient. He cupped her face in his hands and kissed her. Soft at first, testing, then deeper when she kissed back. It was everything. Weeks of tension and careful distance and wanting. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against hers. I'm in love with you, he said. Simple, direct, true. I'm in love with you too. He kissed her again, slower this time. Sweet. Come home with me, he whispered. Not for anything except being together. I'll make you tea. We can watch terrible television. You can fall asleep on my couch again. She laughed. You remember that. I remember everything about you. Okay. Yes. Let's go home. They left the office together. Rode the elevator down holding hands. The car was waiting. At his apartment, he made tea like he'd promised. They sat on his couch and found a drama that was so bad it was good. She did fall asleep, curled against him. He woke her gently around midnight. You should take the bed. I'll sleep out here. Or we could both sleep in the bed. Just sleep. Just sleep, he agreed. They changed in separate rooms, met in his bedroom feeling suddenly awkward. Then he held out his hand and she took it, and they got into bed together. She fit perfectly against his side, his arm around her, her head on his chest. This is nice, she said. This is everything. They fell asleep like that. Surya woke before him, early morning light through the windows. She watched him sleep for a moment, this powerful man who'd changed her entire life. She slipped out of bed carefully, found her clothes, got dressed. She should leave a note, should text him later, should do the normal thing. Instead, she walked to his side of the bed and kissed his forehead. He stirred but didn't wake. She left, went home to her own apartment, showered, changed, made coffee, thought about everything that had happened. The midnight doorbell, the investigation, finding Kojo, falling in love with Ko Sung Hyeon. Her phone buzzed, text from him. You left. I needed to think. About what I want, what this is, what happens next. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. And what do you want? She stared at the question, thought about her answer. I'll tell you in person. She grabbed her keys and took a taxi to his building. Used the key card he'd given her weeks ago. Rode the elevator up. Stood outside his door at 8 in the morning. Knocked. The door opened before her hand fell for the second knock. Like he'd been waiting. Like he knew she'd come. He stood there in joggers and a t-shirt, hair messy from sleep, looking at her like she was his whole world. I want this, she said. I want you. I want coffee in the mornings and late nights at the office, and arguments about financial projections. I want to meet your family and have you annoy my brother. I want everything. But I need to know you want it too. Not because I work for you, not because you feel responsible for me, but because you actually want me in your life. Saria, let me finish. I know it's complicated. I know there are power dynamics and professional concerns and 1,000 reasons this could go wrong. But I've never felt this way about anyone, and I think you feel the same. And I don't want to waste time being careful when we could be happy. He pulled her inside, closed the door. I want everything too, he said. Every morning, every argument, every complicated, beautiful moment. You're not an employee to me. You're not an obligation. You're the person who walked into my life and changed everything without even trying. So what do? We choose this, we choose each other, and we figure out the rest as we go. He smiled. Sound good? Sounds perfect. He kissed her. Morning breath, messy hair, and absolutely perfect. When they pulled apart, he said, "Stay for breakfast. I make excellent pancakes." "You cook?" "I have many hidden talents," she laughed. "Okay, show me." They made breakfast together in his kitchen. Burned the first batch of pancakes. Made the second batch perfectly. Ate standing at the counter, stealing bites from each other's plates. This was it. This was everything. Soul and second chances and finding home in unexpected places. Her phone buzzed. Text from Kojo. "Dinner this week? Want you to meet some friends from work." She showed Seung-Hyeon. "He's doing well, because he has you. We have each other. That's how family works." "Speaking of family," he set down his fork, "my mother wants to meet you." "Your mother knows about me?" "I may have mentioned you once or twice, or every time we talk." She laughed. "I'm terrified." "Don't be. She'll love you." He pulled her close. How could she not? They finished breakfast, cleaned up together, moved through his space like they'd done this 1,000 times before. And Saria thought about that night 2 months ago, when a stranger had rung her doorbell at midnight with an impossible offer. How scared she'd been, how desperate, how everything had changed because she'd been brave enough to open the door. "Thank you," she said quietly. Seung-Hyeon looked up from loading the dishwasher. "For what?" "For ringing my doorbell. For giving me a chance. For seeing me." He crossed to her, took her hands. "Thank you for answering, for staying, for being exactly who you are." He kissed her again, soft and sweet and full of promise. Outside the windows, Seoul stretched bright and busy. A city of second chances, a city of finding home. They're home now, together. Saria pulled back just enough to look at him. This man who'd been a stranger, then a boss, then something so much more. "I love you," she said. "I love you too," he smiled. Now and always. And in his penthouse apartment high above Seoul, with morning light spilling golden across the floor, and the whole future ahead of them, Saria Langston finally felt like she'd come home. Not to a place, but to a person, to a choice, to love. The doorbell had rung at midnight with an unexpected proposal. She'd answered, and everything had changed.